And you are listening to Occult Empire on the Antimatter Zone Network, just like that strange man said in the intro. I am so happy to be with you. My name is Bob from Cincinnati, and tonight we have a wonderful guest, Symbolic Sorcerer. You might remember him on blogtalkradio.com. He had a wonderful series on last year in 2010, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, this guy was talking about the in-depth of Kabbalah or Kabbalah. I don't want to misspeak. I'm kind of a ugly American the way I talk like that, and I apologize, guys. But I'm going to call it Kabbalah. That's because that's how I pronounce it. At any rate, he had some wonderful shows. He got into the meaning of the tarot with Kabbalah. Now, see, before I listened to people like Symbolic Sorcerer, I had no clue that tarot and Kabbalah were linked together. Isn't that amazing? That that the tree of life, if you Google, and I want you to do this tonight, I want you to Google tree of life and then Kabbalah. So tree of life. Otherwise, you'll get the terrible Google muddying search movie with Brad Pitt, and I don't want you to do that. And that's why they do that, ladies and gentlemen, so that when you do search the everyday person, when they search, they'll be muddied with dumb information or foolish information, and they won't get the good stuff. So at that stage, I want you to Google Tree of Life, and then I want you to Google Kabbalah right after that, Kabbalah. Now, it's spelled multiple ways, but tonight we're going to use the K. So at any rate, once you do that, there'll be some interesting images, and then click on images, and you will see the 10 circles on a grid or a tree, or it's a pattern. It's like 3 pillars, and then you'll have a tree there. Now, the spheres are multicolored, and it's really interesting to look at. It's a great piece of artwork unto itself, but it is the ancient system, and I'm not even going to define it because I myself am still learning about it, to be honest with you. But it's an ancient system that is used, I know, in my studies, it's used for consciousness revelation, to rise in consciousness. And as you know, that's really important for me and other people who listen to this show. So at any rate, what I would like to do is draw my friend, the Symbolic Sorcerer, on the line here in just a moment. But before I do that, I am going to, let's see, I want to make sure that everybody can hear me in the chat. So I just want to make sure that I'm being heard. And there we go. Looks good. And excellent. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to go ahead and bring my friend Symbolic Sorcerer on the line. But right before I do that, once again, I want to thank my good friend who composed the tunes for this show, Sounda, S-O-U-N-D-A. S is in Sam, O-U-N-D-A. And you can find Sounda at reverbnation.com/Sounda to get a load of his works. Tonight's tunes, Astral Travel, Land of Us, and another one which I'm not going to reveal the title till next time. So take a look at Sounda, reverbnation.com, like the reverb on a speaker, reverbnation.com/Sounda to catch my friend Sounda's work, because I really appreciate what he is doing, and that is good stuff. So at any rate, without further ado, I'm going to pull up my friend, the Symbolic Sorcerer, if I can pull up the studio. Here we go. And I think you're on the air. Symbolic Sorcerer, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I coming through?
Absolutely. You sound great on my end.
Okay.
And welcome, firstly, to the Antimatter Zone Network, and for joining me on the maiden voyage of a new series called Occult Empire. I couldn't think of a better person to join me arm in arm than the Symbolic Sorcerer. So thank you, sir, for being here.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be back on the radio.
No doubt. And as I was letting you know, and I want to let the listeners know, I was floored by your information last year. Okay, I came late to the show. I didn't catch it until the series had wrapped up in December of last year. But when January, February rolled around and I found this, I was like, whoa, where is this guy at? Where did he go? And it's just wonderful information. As stated, you opened up doors that the Kabbalah and tarot are linked, that the 22 combining arms on that Sephirotic tree of life are actually linked to the tarot cards as well. And it's beyond reality. So I hope tonight, if it's okay, we could get into some Kabbalah. And I wanted to let the listeners know, I know a lot of you are with me and you have some rudimentary understanding of this tree of life already. So I'm not going to spend the whole show and bore Symbolic Sorcerer as well and other people with 101 intro to Kabbalah. I don't want to do that tonight. What I'd like to do is open the floor. We're going to, and for those of you who need an update, I'm going to do a later show here within the next month, within the next few weeks, to be honest with you, a 101 of Kabbalah. We'll call it Kabbalah 101, and it's going to be a fun show. But tonight, I'm going to put the cart before the horse, and I apologize. We're going to work on the fact that we already know what the Sephirotic tree is. We already understand what these spheres mean. So for those of you who don't understand, if you Google Kabbalah Tree of Life and you take a look, they're titled what the different spheres are called, and I'm sure tonight we'll get into some of the meanings as well of the different spheres. But later, I was hoping if you could humor me, Symbolic Sorcerer, maybe if we've got a little time towards the end of the show, we could squeeze in a little alchemy, which is one of my pet projects. I am so excited about alchemy. As a vehicle for consciousness expansion, and that's what all this is. And correct me if I'm wrong, but as you delve deep in the mysteries, you realize, oh my God, all of this stuff has to do with me internally. It's not about turning lead into gold. It's not about magical spells, and maybe a portion of it is. Now, I'm not going to delete that because a lot of people do ritual magic with this stuff. But a lot of it has to do with consciousness and the internal psyche, and I'm way excited about that. So if I could, I'm going to step back and bring on my friend, Symbolic Sorcerer, to talk about Kabbalah 102. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so what we can get into in really this isn't that separate from alchemy from the very beginning. When I'm looking at this tree of life, I have a sort of a grand way of looking at it. There's several ways, actually. I see all these 10 circles, these 22 pathways, and I look at it as, you know what, this is really like a musical instrument. It's like all these pathways are like strings and different vibrations and different tones, and that this is really musical, and what we see here is this tree of life is not really outside us. It's really inside us. It defines the structure of energy movements in our subtle bodies. And subtle bodies are really like, it's not the physical body. We have several subtle bodies, actually, and depending on what system you study, would give a different breakdown of these subtle bodies. But mainly people have heard of things like the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body, the spiritual body, and so forth. And so this is really what the tree of life represents, is the energy pattern of various subtle bodies. Now, we can probably match it best with the astral body. The astral body has these 10 energy centers, which are represented by the 10 Sephirot on the Tree of Life. And so that when I say it's like a musical instrument, it's sort of like, well, yeah, we have this Tree of Life energy pattern in our astral body right now. The only thing is, it's like a musical instrument that's way out of tune for most people. When we study the Kabbalah along with the tarot and all these other ways of looking at it and getting into it, we're really structuring this pattern into our field, and it's sort of like we're tuning this musical instrument. We're fine-tuning it. And, well, what's the point? Who, if we get into the sort of mystical thing here of, okay, if that's the musical instrument, then who's the musician? And it's really the higher self. It's our higher self wanting to build this structure within us so that it can be attuned to the cosmic structures, because the Tree of Life is more than just inside us. It's really the whole universe. What I'm looking at on the tree is in particular the planetary arrangement on the Sephiroth. Looking at Malkut, the kingdom, representing the Earth, going up to Yesod, representing the Moon, Hod is Mercury, Netzach is Venus, Tiferet is the Sun, Geburah is Mars, Chesed is Jupiter, and Bina is Saturn. Beyond that, Chokmah is the zodiac, and Keter, the crown, is the very top on the tree of life. And, you know, if we're going to say, well, what's the cosmic structure there? Sort of like the whole universe, but then also shrunk down to a point. And this is where it gets a little mystical, because we see that this tree of life pattern is in all things. And since it's in us, and it's part of the whole cosmic structure, that when we attune to this energy inside us, that attunes us to the energy outside us as well. We become perfectly attuned to these cosmic cycles. This is the mystical union that the Kabbalist is trying to seek, to connect all things outside and inside, the as above, so below, this hermetic great work. So it really is an alchemical structuring process of this pattern of energy movement within our subtle bodies. Yeah, it's mainly the astral body, but it works into these other bodies as well. So that's sort of, you know, one grand way of looking there at the tree of life.
And you said that the astral body is most, that's the one that we're focusing on mainly right now, correct?
The version of the tree of life that I'm using does focus mainly on the astral body. We're familiar with the 7 chakras running along the central column. So we have like the crown center, the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus, sacral chakra, root chakra. So everyone's familiar with that. That's sort of this straight line column of energy. That's really the etheric body, and not so much the astral body. When we have the etheric body, that's sort of like the think of it as life force, and that the etheric is what animates dead matter. It's what makes things alive. It's what makes things grow. Otherwise, we would be just minerals. That's what the physical body really is just minerals. And in the Vedic teachings, they actually call the physical body the sheath made of food, because literally that's what it is. And so there's so much more to the human being than just this sheath made of food. We have this life body, and then above that we kind of have this astral body, which is kind of our kind of thoughts and feelings, perceptions, consciousness. What we're doing when we study this tree of life is we're working into these thought forms and building up this image visually as a picture that then attunes into this astral vehicle. Mainly, you know, it's you know, going on inside us, but you know, there's advanced uses of the tree of life to create a vehicle that can be used for traveling in the astral world itself, which basically what you would do is go into a meditative state, and in your mind's eye you would build up the image of the tree of life as kind of a picture in front of you, and then you would slowly dissolve the feeling of your physical body and then project your consciousness into this image that you've constructed of the tree of life, and then that becomes a vehicle for traveling through the astral planes.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Now, may I ask, have you personally reached such meditative states where you have astrally, you know, been aware in your astral body?
It sort of goes in cycles. What you find in the summer is that the energies are sort of geared towards external expression into outer forms, and that in the winter we sort of go within, and we can think of it as like the breathing process of the year. In the summer, that's sort of like when we have fully exhaled our breath. This is sort of like where we're at in the year right now. We fully exhaled our breath, and then we're starting to hit that cycle of the year where we're starting to inhale once again. The fall, the autumn, is the inhalation, and then the winter is holding that breath in. And then the spring is where we begin to breathe out again, and then finally the summer is where we're fully exhaled. So the summer is about external expressions, about going out and doing stuff, going out and having fun, biking, hiking, going fishing, camping, all sorts of things like that. In the winter is where we withdraw more into ourselves and find time to understand ourselves and connect to spirit more. So I had a lot of experiences last winter. I have sort of had the ability to spontaneously astrally project since I was a kid, and I don't know when it's going to happen. It's sort of like if my higher self feels the need to get me out of the body, then it'll happen. And so what I will experience is sort of like as I'm falling asleep, I'll feel like a kind of twisting. And in the past, I would get like a sleep paralysis where I would try to fight it. I didn't want to go and surrender to the process because it can get a little scary that you can't move your physical body. You know, you try to move your arms and legs, and you're just stiff, and all you can do is feel this twisting motion.
Right.
So recently, I've been able to just surrender to the process and fall into this twisting motion, and literally feel myself being, sort of like I don't really have the experience of like being sucked out of my body, but then I'll feel this twisting motion for a while. And then all of a sudden it kind of goes dark, and then all of a sudden I find myself in, like an astral world where it's just like the physical world, except things just aren't as solid, that they can be more controlled with thought, that it's more of a world of consciousness and thought and feelings, that I think my work with the Tree of Life has allowed me to get into these levels, and when I'm in these levels, I find myself able to move freely through the different areas by projecting symbols onto little doorways that I create in this astral world that correspond to different worlds that I want to go to. Like, for example, say I wanted to go to Yesod while I'm in the astral world, I would draw a picture of the crescent moon and then project that onto like a purple wall, because Yesod is assigned to the color purple, and then I would kind of project into it and go through the doorway, and then the same kind of thing would happen. It would kind of like go black for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up and find myself in a whole new world. And you can literally explore the whole universe in these spaces. We find in these spaces that we're not as small as we think we are, that our consciousness can literally expand to the size of galaxies and beyond, and we can go literally flying through space with the stars whooshing past us, and, it can get a little terrifying at first because there's no physicality, there's no bodies, there's nothing to grab onto. So, in that state, you really have to surrender to the process, because if you try fighting it, you're not going to have a good time. But literally, this is what is going on with exploring this Tree of Life in our own consciousness, is being able to project into this astral world and then explore these different areas and see, okay, when I'm in this Sephiroth, then I can feel this type of energy. And when I go to this other one, then I can feel this type of energy. So it's not just something we're reading in books anymore, but it's something we experience internally, and this is the kind of mystical knowing that every Kabbalist is trying to get at.
I think this is amazing. Now, see, you've got somebody like me on the other end who reads a lot of this stuff, but yet I'm completely disconnected from the process itself. And so to hear you speak of this is very exciting to someone like me and to probably a lot of my listeners out here. It's unbelievable. And now these states, now you're not inducing any of these states with psychoactive substances.
Nope. This is mainly just from, having studied the Tree of Life for so long that it literally became a solidified thought form in my astral body, so that when I found myself, naturally being able to astrally project in my sleep, that I sort of had this map of where things are and where, how I can get to these different places, and these different pathways showing me, okay, if I want to get to, this very high place on the Tree of Life, then there's intermediate areas that I need to get through first.
Right.
So what I find, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Okay, so what I find is that having done the work of studying the tree, doing meditations, reading all the books, now it's in my consciousness, then I find myself, in this out-of-body state, and I can navigate it more readily because I have this map within me already.
And as stated, it's just amazing. I'm just trying to fathom this. It must be quite enlightening to be able to travel outside your corporeal form through these other worlds, and to use this Kabbalistic Tree of Life as a map, so to speak. As you said, you project this symbol onto Yesod, and I think you said the moon, and you're able to use this symbol. Now that's pure magic in action, and it's very exciting. If you could, and like I said, I don't want to put parameters on all this. If you could expand a little bit on some of this symbolism, I think that would be enlightening to some of us. That this is you're using this as a tool. A gateway, so to speak, and it's ineffable. I don't know what to say. I'm very excited to hear you speak on this.
Well, this is definitely something that can affect all of our future incarnations if we really do the work of structuring this pattern. And how do we structure this pattern? There's so many different symbols that go on the Tree of Life, and so many different patterns and mappings. We have, first of all, the numbers 1 through 10, and number symbolism that goes with that. Where does number symbolism come from? That goes back to Pythagoras, who taught things about the 1 is sort of the beginning, number 2 is like duplication and polarity and opposites, number 3 is where those opposites become united back together, so that's kind of like growth and reproduction. Number 4 is like structure and order, and number 5 is like change, modification, adaptation. Number 6 is all about symmetry and harmony. Number 7 is all about kind of like rest, equilibrium, poise. Number 8 is about rhythm and pulsation and vibration. Number 9 is about perfection and attainment. And number 10 is about completion and finally the beginning of a new cycle. That's just number symbolism. Now when we put those meanings onto the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life, we can have some things to grasp rather than, reading some of these Kabbalistic texts, the Zohar, the Sefer Yetzirah. It's kind of hard to understand when they're describing the meanings of these different Sephiroth. How do they correspond to things we already know? If we can understand number symbolism, then that is sort of a basic building block of, oh, okay, now I can understand if number 6 is about symmetry and harmony, then I can understand why Tiferet is called beauty, because that beauty is really a perception of symmetry and harmony and things like that. So, you know, all these meanings of the Sephirot really come from the meanings of numbers. And that's just one set of symbols. Then we can go on to looking at the tarot symbols and the Hebrew letters on the pathways. So, you know, once we kind of have all these symbols in place on the Tree of Life, then this is what builds the structure. What I said about eventually being able to get out of body, you know, I don't know, because I've been able to do this since I was young. I've never, you know, sat down with a book on astral projection and done the exercises on trying to project out of body. It's just been something I've been naturally able to do when falling asleep. And I don't know, you know, what someone else would do to try to get there, but definitely if you do find yourself in this out-of-body state where you're really just as conscious as you are now, and what you realize there is that, oh my God, this world that I'm in is all thoughts. It's all just consciousness. So when you come back down to this world, you see, okay, it's not all that different. Things are still three-dimensional. Objects still have a space that they occupy. I can pick things up and move things around. So if it's so much like the astral world, I mean the physical world, that is so much like the astral world, and the astral world is all about, it's made of thought, then when you come back down to the physical, you see, oh my God, the physical world is the same way. It's all just made of thought. But it's not my thought. And so then you realize it must be someone else's thought. It's the thoughts of, you know, the divine mind that are really holding together the physical world. This is the kind of inner knowing of gnosis that every mystic is trying to seek. And not only that, that when you come back with this knowledge, that your fear of death is pretty much obliterated. And not only that, that it really gives you the confidence to start working on yourself from the point of view of your higher self, that, okay, I'm going to do things now that I'm going to take with me to future incarnations, that I'm not going to focus so much on, you know, doing things to make this particular lifetime more interesting, but for all my future lifetimes, then I'm going to start working on myself so that I can become this, you know, this divine being that I feel that I'm being guided to become. And I think anyone can pretty much have a similar experience if they do the work and come to a similar realization.
I agree, and I'll be honest with you, Symbolic Sorcerer, when you spoke that, when you said that there's this feeling, and I'll be honest, and another person in the chat room, they pointed it out too, and they said, I think I've been to the astral plane in a few dreams. It felt different, much like he described. I thought it was like being in an Alex Gray painting, and this was I811ST. So at any rate, yes, you really sparked something when you said that. A lot of us have these real dreams, or these dreams where we're like, oh my gosh, this is like reality to us. But a lot of the times we are in this astral plane, I believe. And I'll be honest, if I may, I've got one little story to share. When I was in my early 20s, I was waiting tables. I was a very tired young man, and I had this waking dream, and I was in this world where there was this peace, this feeling of utter peace. I was in a little valley, and it was all the weight of the world, of this temporal world, was off my back. I've never felt that way before, and I have yet to feel that way since. And just when I had relaxed, I internally I said, oh, I can finally relax now. And all of a sudden, there was a girl to my right-hand side in the corner of my eye, and I turned. She was floating above the water, Indian style, and she told me her name, which I'll keep to myself for now, guys, and she also told me what she could do for me, which I'll keep to myself for now. But she was illuminated. Her chakras were illuminated, and I just when I realized that she was speaking to me and what she told me, I just ripped back into the temporal world and shot up, and it was very disturbing to come back very quickly like that. But what I would like to point out is that in my early 20s, I had no idea what chakras were. I learned about chakras within the last 3 years. Okay, but there she was. Her chakras were illuminated, and she was levitating, and also this world was utter peace. And I just want to concur and affirm that yes, you are so correct, and also the person in the chat that there is a world worth reaching, and it is a wonderful, peaceful feeling, and it's beautiful. And like you said, once you realize, and that's what sparked it for me when you said that, once you realize that there is such a place, that there is such an existence outside of this heavy-weighted temporal world we live in with all the cares and all the distress, that all of that can be gone. It is such a treat to shoot for that. And I think subconsciously that's what spurred me in my studies in metaphysics and spirituality, was that complete, utter feeling of peace. Oh my gosh, what a feeling. Thanks for entertaining me, Symbolic Sorcerer, to share that.
Yeah, I know every time I come back from these experiences that are spontaneous, I don't ever plan for it. It's just sort of, like I said, if my higher self feels the need to kind of initiate me onto a higher level, then that's when it happens. And I remember the last time it happened, I came back and I shot up out of my bed, and I was just thankful. Like the thankfulness and gratitude was just overwhelming, and because I didn't plan for it, it was just kind of like, well, here it was. This was a gift, and I sat and wrote down every little detail. I wrote like 6 pages in my dream journal that day, and but the feeling of just gratitude of, thank you for showing me this, because now I feel inside this confidence of, that this world is only part of the story, that there's so much more going on beyond this physical world, and that, even though, we do have to work and do what we need to do in the physical world, we're here for a reason. This physical world is not a punishment. We are definitely here to work on ourselves and to become our truly divine selves, but we really have to have the kind of confidence that we will continue on after this physical body dissolves and returns back to the elements. But having this knowing, like I said, this gives us more confidence in undertaking these kinds of, this kind of work where you can work on alchemy and Kabbalah for so long and not get any results, and it can get a little frustrating. But I think, maybe if you have a sort of experience like I said, or if you can listen to someone else's experience where they can give you the assurance of, yes, these other worlds are out there, we can get into them, provided we do the work, then, that really is going to be a positive message for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And now a lot of people, and you seem to confirm some of this, a lot of people that speak on this really, there's a lot of feeling involved with this work, and also a lot of one's imagination is involved in a lot of this work. Do you agree, or do you have a different take on that, sir?
Well, it really depends on so many things, at what type of level we want to approach it. I know people who are more feeling-based, that when they do their meditations, they look for, how does this make me feel? What are my feelings doing? And with me, I'm not so much into feeling naturally. I know that I have to kind of direct myself in that direction, because that's, in order to feel this wholeness, that we also have to focus on our feelings. But just like you said, with other areas, imagination, the mind, thoughts, I'm, as you can probably tell, much more of a thinking type person. So when I study the Tree of Life, I like to look at the numbers and the Hebrew letters and looking into the different meanings of symbols and going through the symbols one at a time and refreshing myself on their meanings, and then sort of bringing all these meanings back up to the front of my consciousness, and then seeing, okay, is there anything new that I haven't seen before? And then, maybe if I focus on how this makes me feel, then I can get into, what is the experience here? What is the feeling associated with these thoughts? So we really have to approach it from all levels because, like I said, we really have several subtle bodies. Now, depending on which system you study, we have as many as 7 subtle bodies. You can probably limit it to about 3 or 4, just to be a little bit easier to comprehend. But the astral plane is definitely a world of feelings, and then sort of above that is the mental plane of thoughts and sort of mental constructs, things like that. But yeah, definitely I would recommend approaching it at all levels. Definitely start from the level that you feel most natural with, but don't ignore the other levels because those are going to tell you things about yourself that are very important.
I can see where, looking at your work, I see where you are quite a mathematician and a numbers guy, for lack of a better word, and I apologize, I'm kind of a layperson on this. But yes, I mean, I was watching one of your videos where you were talking about the sphere and 22/7, and ironically enough, the moment I was watching that, it was 7/22 was the date. And
really?
It was crazy. It was last night. It was crazy, and I was like, "Is he talking about 7/22? What is he?" And sure enough, it was the date. But that's the beautiful fractal nature we live in. That there is this symmetry, and I think that's. I hope that. Well, I think that's where you're going. Is that there is this divine grand order. Of the magic of the universe, as above, so below, as within, so without, and that's why I think a lot of us gravitate to the Kabbalah and what it can reveal to us, and to move around a little bit, back to the tree again. Now, a lot of people approach it from the bottom going up in that zigzag pattern, from the bottom of the tree, Malkuth, all the way up to Keter, the crown. Is there a reason to approach it from the top going down, or can you describe the flow a little bit of Kabbalah and how it kind of works for us?
Okay, so when we look at the tree of life, the energy really goes both ways. As we begin the creation process from starting with nothing, in Kabbalah they actually have 3 levels above the tree of life, which are called the 3 veils, and those are called Ein, Ein Suf, and Ein Suf Or. Ein means nothing, Ein Suf means limitless, and Ein Suf Or means limitless light. Now this is the real reality, is this unmanifest, and then it sort of trickles down the tree of life. Keter is really the point of beginning. And then Chokmah, number 2, is like the expansion of that point to create a line. And then from the line, we get number 3, Binah, which is really like a triangle. And then from there, we would get like all this geometrical movement, dimensional movement, and that's sort of how I see, the energy coming down the tree. Also, we can look at it as there is that supernal triad of the 3 Sephirot at the top of the tree, and then we have another triad from Chesed, Geburah, and Tiferet, and then we have another triad below that, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, and then finally Malkut at the bottom. So we see 3 times 3, this perfection of the number 3, and then that's sort of, things coming down. We really have to start at the top first and understand how the energy is moving down the tree, because in the creation process, that's exactly how things go. We start from nothing, and then we have a point of beginning, and then that point expands to create the whole universe that we have. we're really attuning to that creation process because we're down here in Malkut. If we can attune to that creation process, then that creation process can then flow through us. And that's really what we're trying to do to cultivate this magical awareness. Now, going back up the tree, that's called the path of return. Because this process of initiation, this return to oneness, is going to take us back up these levels, and so it really goes both ways. And I meditate it going both ways, probably more going down the tree, which is probably not what a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are mainly trying to go up the tree, but either way is fine. I would suggest actually learning how the energy comes down the tree before you try to reverse it and go back up the tree.
Yes.
But with that said, you can spend maybe 2 to 3 years on understanding how the energy is coming down the tree. Once you really understand that, then it's time to focus on the path of return, because that's now going to take you the rest of your life and, into future incarnations. There's no way that a person could really, unless you're a very advanced being already, to fully perfect this path of return in a single incarnation. There are master beings who are only at, as high as like Tiferet. And,
wow.
Because we have to keep in mind that, this tree of life is a fractal pattern, that within each of those Sephirot we find another tree of life, and so on and so on and so on. So really when we see the tree of life, okay, if I can climb up to Tiferet, then we realize that when I get to Tiferet, I have to climb up a whole nother 10 Sephirot before I can get to Geburah, number 5, because of the fractal nature of it. And so a person can be in Tiferet, but then they still have a whole nother tree of life to climb before they get to the next one. So this can take literally, dozens of incarnations to fully attain to this this true mastery that, I can't even imagine what it would be like to have attained, these divine levels in the supernal triad, and however many people have done that before. I know it's been done. There's, we've had definite masters in the past, the Master Jesus, the Master Christian Rosenkreutz, Pythagoras, I'm sure, was quite well up there as well, and then even, some of our Buddhas and so forth. But we can all become, this Christ consciousness. We can all become Buddhas, and this tree of life pattern is something that's been left behind for us as a roadmap for how we can get back there, and it's been really done by people who have followed that path all the way to the top.
Now, this particular roadmap, for decades, if not centuries, was kept secret by those who kept the secret, whether they were, Hebrew-oriented people who kept this as part of their, even amongst a lot of Jews, the Kabbalah is seen as some sort of strange, mystical, I don't want to call it an outcast, but it's sort of a separate from their, just like mystical Christians are completely anathema to what we would call regular Christians today. Mystical Christianity is completely separate from their world now, just like the Kabbalah is separate from what we would call Judaism today. Now, the other mystical orders, such as Freemasonry, etc., Rosicrucianism, etc., they have kept this all secret for so long. Now, all of this stuff, and I believe this is just my personal take, and I want to hear your take too, sir, that the Internet has changed everything. It's changed the entire reality that we live in. Everything is open game for everybody who wants to know it at their fingertips. And this knowledge is just exploded onto the scene. Like I told some of the other initiates or people that I work with in esoteric societies or orders who share information with me and others. I looked for this stuff when I was younger, and I couldn't find it. I mean, I found, basic books. You go in the terrible bookstores, and there's this glossy, sheen over the top of this stuff. But with the internet, all of this stuff's just pouring out now. So the point of all this is that it has been secret. These orders have kept this secret. You know, Masonry, which has been perverted over the decades, if not centuries, used to be a positive consciousness building organization. Now it's an organization that houses the most unsavory characters, not on the lowest levels. I'm not talking about your regular Masons out there. I'm talking about Illuminized Freemasonry at the top levels, 33rd degree and above, that have used this to keep people down. And I don't want to really go into it, Sir, Symbolic Sorcerer. I know that you know of the Qabalah tree. And they use that darkness to keep us thwarted in levels of beast or base consciousness. And when you get into the numerology, as you already know, Symbolic Sorcerer, that 666 is the two-thirds of the wholeness. They keep us in a base beast consciousness, and it's sinful and shameful what they're doing. But thanks to good voices like yours and others, you're helping us, the lay people out here, to realize we have been encased in a prison of consciousness, the tesseract, the cube, the hypercube within a cube. They keep us inside that cube while they live outside in the larger cube in reality, while we live in this tiny cube of base beast consciousness, and it's time for us to live too. So, but thanks for letting me get that out there. And I just like your take on some of that.
Well, this is definitely a controversial aspect of all this. What we have to keep in mind is, there's really not any us and they. There's really one humanity. And, some human beings in the past had advanced to much higher levels than the average people. And I think what happened is that internally, this one humanity looked at itself and said, since I really have this plan for myself of moving forward in the physical world, maybe what I should do is take some of my less evolved centers of consciousness and sort of hide the light from them, and that then they would become sort of like working and building things for this overall plan that they wouldn't understand. And, they couldn't understand it because they really hadn't evolved to those levels yet. And so they kind of said, let's hide this from ourselves for a while so that we can fully understand this physical world, so that we can understand the matter and scientifically through matter. That when we hid the light from ourselves, then we were able to fully move into this. And that now I think it's sort of we're waking up because of the internet. This information is getting out there. People are learning about these high levels of groups that are abusing the power, the systems that they know, and obviously trying to use it to take control of people. On the other hand, we have to keep in mind is that, if this didn't happen, if people were all spiritual all the time, then we would have not gotten the understanding of the material world that we have. I think it is definitely out of control, that our science needs to get back into the spirit and embrace the non-material aspect of reality, because physical science won't admit that anything other than physical matter even exists. So, we know at the highest levels that, that they have this spiritual knowledge. They're using these symbols. But we have to keep in mind this cube construct that you're talking about, because I've heard this before, that this Illuminati, they're using this symbolism, the cube, keep us in the box, that sort of thing. Well, the box has a use. It is useful sometimes to limit yourself to a certain area so that you can work in it and achieve a specialization. Once that specialization is achieved, then you can expand your awareness and make this box bigger and bigger and bigger. What we're finding is that it's sort of like, well, we're really sort of limit it down to this one little area. and then find out what is the value of this, and then we can pull that out and expand into these bigger things. And what I see, one of my friends was showing me some videos about this, and his interpretation was, the cube of space is no good. Don't study Kabbalah because it's all this conspiracy to entrap our minds. And what I told him was, no, that's not what the cube of space means. The cube of space is really our alchemical laboratory, and we need to limit ourselves into this field and sort of shut down the wholeness, because if we had wholeness all the time, we wouldn't be able to specialize. Since we can specialize, we can go as deep as we can into matter and then pull back out and then use that towards our future growth. It's sort of in a what's the word? Dissonance between the people who know and the people who are first waking up. Because the people who are waking up are looking at it and saying like they're so enraged, like oh my God, I can't believe they didn't tell us the truth. I can't believe they were hiding the truth from us, and they get so upset that, oh my God, I can't believe the Illuminati is out there with all this knowledge and they've kept it from humanity.
And
they don't realize.
I'm still angry about it, Stephen. I'm still angry. Still angry. But go on. I'm sorry.
So I mean, the thing is, it's like, well, what did they do? They hid the truth from the people who couldn't understand it. They didn't have the tools of understanding in their consciousness to understand these mystical levels, this truth about consciousness and this one self identity of all of humanity. And people were at this sort of animal level in their evolution. And people have now hit the point where the average person can understand this and not misuse it. And so I've heard people, with the bitterness of, I can't believe they hid the truth from us. But the thing is, we couldn't have understood it in the past. It would have just been impossible to understand. And there's a saying that goes with this, is that too much light is blinding, and that's literally true. Is that if they would have told everyone the truth, then it would have created havoc, and it's literally that. Too much light is blinding. We have a purpose to do in this physical world, except now we're in this sort of incongruous state where people can understand, except when they finally wake up and see what the truth is and that it's been hidden from them, they get really upset about it. And it's like, well, if you stop and think about it, well, we really only hid the truth from ourselves, because we are that one humanity. We are that Adam Kadmon, and becoming this fullness in everything. And there's only this one identity that's controlling all of this, and it has a plan for what it's doing with all of humanity. And so when we look at it from our own individual level, it seems like I want to know the truth. I want to have all the information out there, and I want to have access to everything. Except we have to understand that it has its advantages from the point of view of the one self, and not from the point of view of the separate personal self. Then yeah, it can piss you off, and it's sort of like the second, or sort of like what you could add on to the statement of the truth will set you free, because what I say is, yeah, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off really bad. And that's basically what we have here.
Right. Now, to comment on that, I'd like to say that there is, though, I mean, when you get into Kabbalah, you realize there is the one. We are all one. But then once again, you get to the top and you realize there is the nothing, right? And then that's very curt the way I'm putting all that. But but there are levels to the one as well. I mean, just to put it bluntly, there are satanic pedophiles out there. Am I part of that? Am I doing that? Inadvertently, I'm connected to that because we're all part of the same humanity. But there are certain layers and levels in this reality that are separate from my being. Now, I know that's not a very, very spiritual way to look at that, and I agree. But my point is that there are actually there are good, for lack of a better word, Masons. There are good Illuminized Masons out there, and there are bad ones. There are ones that have fought to keep this stuff under the wraps all this time, and I understand, your point where you're saying, well, the people weren't ready. They lived in an animalistic consciousness. Well, maybe we lived in an animalistic consciousness because the darn truth has been kept from us all this time. I mean, when you give a child a rattle and a couple of blocks, and then down the street inside the Masonic temple, you're teaching the child, oh, here is the work of the master, and here are the layers, and here are the Sephirotic spheres, and here are it's almost like the public education system we live in. I mean, what do we think we're churning out? We're churning out garbage and I have children in these school systems, and it's terrible. It's horrific what they're teaching or what they're not teaching these kids. And when one tries to interfere and go against the program, you're put in your place very quickly. Well, you have little import to this, Bob from Cincinnati. I know you're paying my bills through your taxes. However, we have everything in hand with the limited Pablany education we're sharing with your child. Good day, sir. Good day. I've got a golf tournament I need to get to, tells the superintendent to me. So here's my point, and I think you know where I'm going with this, sir. Knowledge, this is my take, knowledge should be free. It should be open. It should be unocculted, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do, and I think you're trying to do too, sir, is that we're trying to unoccult that which has been occulted. And should these people be scared that we're gaining the knowledge? No, they should not. Because, as you know, Symbolic Sorcerer, when the technology that they've hidden all these years, since World War II, instant teleportation to different planetary bodies in our solar system, the black triangles, the TR3Bs using Tesla technology, which they use underground rail systems, which you could travel on magneto-levitating trains from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. within about a half an hour, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm talking 1990s technology. Okay, guys, we live in a world we know nothing about the reality. And here our good friend Symbolic Sorcerer is sharing his knowledge, and I want to thank you for doing that, sir.
Yeah, my goal definitely has been, I sort of honestly started doing this coming from this awakening that we know is going on. That people looking into Freemasonry and these power structures and Illuminism and so forth. I definitely studied that for over a good year, and so much of it was like they have all the power. They have all the power. They're they've been dumbing us down forever and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I just was like, enough. I have all the power. Here's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Because it's, if you have someone out there telling you they have the power, those interpretations get put into your subtle bodies and that literally become the structures that enslave you. Not so much the external things, but the internal beliefs of who really has the power. Because we are all really the master. And honestly, I'm also a teacher at school, and there's been times where I have tried to bring up esoteric aspects of mathematics, and people don't want to know. You'd be surprised.
Right.
I try shining the light, and people don't want to know. And I gave the analogy of, there was a student in my class. We got into talking about like the difference between farm-raised or factory farm-raised chickens and free-range organic chicken. And I was like, yeah, well, just think about it. When you eat an animal, it's like the saying, you are what you eat. And so if you eat an animal that was out and free and roaming around and had its freedom, then you take that energy within you, and then that fuels your growth and your freedom and your longing for wholeness and to be free. And that when you're a person who eats the type of food, the chickens that are, raised in these cages, they never get up to move, then you take that energy within you, then guess what? You're the type of person that wants to sit in a cage and never wants to move. And so I was explaining this,
right.
And one of the kids in the back of the class said, yeah, they did an experiment in one of these factory farms where they pretty much opened up all the cages, and the chickens didn't get up and get out. They were perfectly content where they were. And I looked at them and I said, you know what? I do the exact same thing. I try to open the cage door for people, and they just sit there like little chickens. They don't want to get out.
We are so numbed to what's going on. We just sit in the cage. And it's exciting that you are helping us to get to new layers of consciousness. You're right. If we take in that chicken that's been poisoned, it's poisoned into, or it's a consciousness that we take into ourselves. Symbolic Sorcerer of symbolicsorcery.blogspot.com. I want you to stay where you're at, sir. Will you join me on the other side of this break?
Definitely.
And wonderful. This is exciting, and I'm so excited to have you sharing this on Occult Empire on the Antimatter Zone Network. So we're going to take a few moments, and when we come back, we'll take your calls at area code 347-327-9278. That's 347-327-9278. If you have any questions or comments for Symbolic Sorcerer or myself, we'd be more than happy to take them. Stick around. We'll be right back, folks. Okay, I've got my good friend Symbolic Sorcerer coming back for another round. We're just getting warmed up, guys. Maybe we could, if it's okay, Symbolic Sorcerer, we could talk a little bit about alchemy. This is the classic, let's turn lead to gold and make $1 million. But in reality, it has more to do with turning lead, which is base consciousness, into gold, getting to that gold crown chakra, or that gold halo around you'll see these religious characters on the old mosaics on the church walls. They have this gold crown around their head, the unity or Christ consciousness. What do you think about some of that, Symbolic Sorcerer?
Well, there is definitely a lot of secrets of alchemy that I would enjoy sharing tonight. First of all, of course, I think everyone here knows that alchemy is not about literally turning one form of metal into another. First of all, let's be clear on one thing. What is the alchemist's laboratory? The alchemist's laboratory is his own physical body. Not only that, but all of his subtle bodies, the etheric body, the astral body, mental body, spiritual body, so forth. Now, we hear in alchemy about different elements, fire, water, air, and earth, different planets, the 7 classical planets, and also the 12 astrological signs. Now, actually, since we were talking about the Kabbalah, if you go back to the text Sefer Yetzirah, you'll see in there it's talking about the same structure in the Hebrew alphabet. What they have in Sefer Yetzirah, they call the elements the 3 mother letters. And they don't use earth as an element, because really earth is just a conglomeration of fire, water, and air. So the 3 mother letters in Sefer Yetzirah are Aleph, Mem, and Shin. Now Aleph is air, Mem is water, and Shin is fire. So these are the 3 elements. Now the 7 planets are really like the 7 chakras, and many people are aware of this, but let's just run through what the meanings are. First of all, we have Saturn is lead, is the root chakra. Mars is iron, is the sacral or sexual chakra. Jupiter is tin, the solar plexus. Gold is the heart, that's the sun. The throat chakra is Venus, that's copper. The third eye is the moon, that's silver, and then the crown chakra is Mercury, which is then the planet Mercury. And also we have the in Sefer Yetzirah, those are the 7 double letters. So actually that would be, the Saturn is Tav. If you guys know the Hebrew letters here, Saturn is Tav, Mars is Pei, Jupiter is Kaf, the Sun is Resh, Venus is Dalet, the Moon is Gimel, and the crown chakra, Mercury, is then Bet. So then we go on to the 12 astrological signs. Those correspond to what are called the 12 simple letters in Sefer Yetzirah. So Sefer Yetzirah describes this 3-7-12 pattern of the Hebrew letters. Not only that, but when we look at the tree of life, what we find is that there are 3 horizontal pathways, there are 7 vertical pathways, and 12 diagonal pathways. So again, we find 3-7-12 in the tree of life itself. What this 3-7-12 pattern is describing is the numerical harmonics of the subtle bodies, because the 3 corresponds to the astral body, the 7 corresponds to the etheric body, and the 12 corresponds to the physical body. And so this is the alchemical laboratory, these 22 Hebrew letters, which are divided into this 3-7-12 pattern. And when we're doing this alchemical work, that it's really involving these 3 different areas of consciousness, the astral, etheric, and physical. But there's so much more to that. Alchemy. What's going on? Are we doing work in a laboratory? Well, just like we said, if we think of subtle bodies, then really our laboratory is those subtle bodies. But there are people who do alchemical work with different apparatus, different retorts and vessels, boiling and cooking different substances, creating spagyric tinctures and so forth. That, I don't have a lot of background knowledge there, but I can see the use of, combining these forces in a vessel as not only being a potent meditation, but literally it can be, a way of putting specific energy patterns into an elixir or a form or so forth, that when you take it, it would be kind of like creating changes in your own vibrational field. Now, I don't think that it's possible to create a actual, to literally cook up something called Philosopher's Stone or something like that, all you have to do is get the right recipe and then you can make the Philosopher's Stone.
I'll take
that
2
kind
to
of
go.
Thing.
I want 2 Philosopher's Stones to go, and an order of fries, and I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Hey, just as an aside,
that be nice?
Oh man, I'm desperate for one. I'll take a portion of one at this stage. For reference, guys, they're on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, there's a great series of introductory videos on this called Alchemy: Sacred Secrets Revealed. It's put out by Luxor Media, and then there's a follow-up called Solve et Coagula, SOLVE, space E-T as in Tom, space C as in Cat, O-A-G-U-L-A, The Great Work of Alchemy. So this is a great little video series, a primer on all this talk, and this is going to help us as we move along. I just wanted to put that out there, Symbolic Sorcerer.
Yeah, I definitely support the interpretations in that video. It's great for getting into what is the meaning of alchemy and the great work in terms of consciousness. There's a lot that it doesn't say, but, to really get into it, that you'd really have to do these studies. And as far as making a popular format or download that anyone can watch and understand, I definitely would recommend that to anyone who's interested in learning about alchemy for the first time.
Right, absolutely. Just a primer, not the end all be all. You know, a lot of these, video presentations just don't get into it. So with that in mind, in the 17, 18 minutes that we have left, I want to just open the floor to you, sir. Share with us what you can about alchemy, how we can use alchemy for our own purposes to get to the higher levels that we need to get to.
Well, alchemy really begins with changing the vibrational energy fields in our subtle bodies and our environment. And once we learn how to do that, either with our consciousness, creating thought forms and impressing those, sort of like, I don't know what's the right word, encoding, I guess impressing, or projecting a thought form into an object to raise its vibration to a higher level, and not only that, in ourself raising our own vibration to a higher level. This is sort of like the different vibrational tools that go along with the tree of life, the different colors, the chants that go with the various Hebrew mantras, the divine names that go with the tree of life. These all have vibratory powers and can literally change a vibrational field of a person or an environment, either by visualizing these colors, visualizing the Hebrew letters, chanting these names, or doing all of the above. So that's where we begin with this great work, and the tree of life really tells us, how we can do specific things to achieve specific results. Let's say, very simple, I can give you guys some things to do. Let's say you want to, you're about to sit down and eat a meal, and anyone can do this. If you perform a blessing or a prayer over your meal and connect it to the divine, then it will raise the vibrational level of that food, and that you will take that vibration inside yourself, and it can have a healing effect. And this is literally true, and this is something that anyone can start to do. Once you have gained skill in this area, then you can go on to more advanced things, where physical transmutations literally can become possible. But you have to be so advanced in your consciousness that, if you could get out of your physical body, we know that we can project our consciousness into an astral body and separate from the physical body. But many people are not aware that it's also possible to project out of the astral body also, that you can have out of your physical body and then get out of your astral body. Once you're that, then you can become as small as an atom or as big as the universe. So if you can become as small as an atom with your consciousness, you could literally go to physical lead, and all you have to do is change a few of the molecules around, and you can change it into gold. And that's literally how, if you do follow up what the alchemists are teaching, this is entirely possible. We always think that it's just a metaphor, it's just a symbol turning lead into gold. But at the highest levels of alchemy, this stuff is really possible. It would take any of us, lifetimes of work to achieve that kind of mastery. But we can begin with changing the vibrations of our own energy field, and think about just things as simple as your thoughts and your emotions carry a vibrational energy pattern along with them. If you start changing your thoughts and your emotions about people you associate with, your friends and family, your job, your environment, you start gaining control over your environment by reinterpreting what you're looking at. And so it's like man has eyes, but he has not learned how to see. Because if we can see the divine in all things, well, let's just keep it this simple. If I walk through my house and I see all the walls and all the furniture and all the carpets, and I can say that, you know what, all this stuff really comes from the divine mind, and I can connect my consciousness to the divine with all these things in my environment, then that is going to have a profound change on the vibrational level of my environment. And this is sort of Alchemy 101, is changing your thoughts to change yourself and to change your environment. It's really that simple. Now, I have different ways of testing this and actually verifying that what I'm saying is true. That's a little bit more advanced, and I don't think we have time to go into it, probably on a future show. That would be something fun to do.
I would love for
you
to come back on a future show to share some of these deeper layers, because we can tell you are just scratching the surface. So I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, absolutely. This type of alchemy of vibrational fields that I'm talking about is sort of like an underground science. Now, I think I was mentioning this. We had the chat going last night between you and I. I was talking about the science of biogeometry, and if people want to do a Google search for biogeometry, they're not going to find all that much. But it is available now that a person can get trained in the science of biogeometry. And what this science can do is literally change energy fields through different shape resonances. That we find that each physical shape has an energy associated with it. And different things we find, like in Egypt, like the pyramids. If you look at the shape of a pyramid, that there is a specific type of energy resonance that goes with that. And in fact, it resonates with the astral plane. And this is why the pyramid was used as an initiation chamber in ancient Egypt, where it was not a tomb, but the initiates would go into the pyramid in for like a 3-day sleep, where they would be, lifted out of their body and travel through the cosmos, for this 3-day initiation process, and then finally return. That's sort of like, well, why did they make it as a pyramid? Well, the pyramid is the shape that is in resonance with the astral plane. And biogeometry understands the different shapes, the energies of different shapes, and also the energies of different numbers. That if you draw, for example, 16 dots on a piece of paper, that will have this golden energy quality that we see in the auras of these masters and saints. And there's a way of testing for that. There's, a complete science of, which numbers will do this. Well, 16, 19, 28, and it doesn't really follow a mathematical pattern, but you can just kind of test it and see what works. So if I was designing something, then I could put 16 of something, and that would create this golden resonance, and that could be used for balancing, energy healing, and things like that. There are people who literally do healing only with shapes and numbers, because they understand the energies from those, and they can test a person for which types of energies they need, and then applying the correct formulas, changing the vibrational fields, and then that having a trickle-down effect on the physical level itself. This can be a profound healing science, and it's really I think the a really advanced form of alchemy that most people aren't aware of.
And it's exciting you're introducing it to us. Yes, before last night I had no idea what biogeometry was, and I'm still learning with everybody else. So it's exciting that you're sharing this with us. Yes, the pyramids. What? They're not tombs? Well, wait a minute. Symbolic Sorcerer, I've been told all my life these are big burial chambers. There's a queen's chamber and a king's chamber, and that's where all the bodies go. Well, wait a minute, there's only tiny spaces in that giant pyramid. Well, where do they put all the bodies at? Oh, it's an initiatory chamber. Oh, the greats such as Plato, who else? Crowley, all manner of people have been initiated, and these initiations continue to this day. Wasn't there a recent president who made a special trip to Egypt? And wait a minute, I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading this, but yes, I've heard this before, Symbolic Sorcerer.
Yeah, this is definitely some information that's pretty underground right now. The people who know it are sort of still doing the research and not really publicizing it so much. And I'm grateful the fact that that I found it and did get the training in biogeometry and came to learn how to do this kind of alchemical vibrational alchemy or geometric alchemy, as I would call it. And I've gotten incredible results of completely transforming the energy and the vibration of my home, my office, going through even like things in my car, and like even getting the gold vibrational resonance off of like my car seats. So when I'm driving around, going through these thick blankets of cell phone towers when you're driving down the highway. I should mention that that biogeometry understands much more about transmuting detrimental energies into beneficial ones, because actually people think that a lot of the problems going on in the world are economic or political or things like that. Honestly, the major problems going on in the world are what we're doing with technology, because the vibrational fields created by our electrical equipment are destroying life on this planet. And the more we create, the more cell phone towers we make, the more satellites we put up in space, the more electricity there is, the more these deadly vibrations affect human beings, they affect the whole planet. And this is the major problem of why people are in such despair right now, because they're taking in this vibration from these detrimental fields. Like, all you have to do is live within a quarter mile of, high voltage power lines, and that can have a very detrimental effect on your health. Now, what we can do in biogeometry is literally transmute these energy fields and turn them into beneficial ones. So behind my house, I have power lines running through that were causing all sorts of health problems for the first couple months when I lived here. Now, I'm so grateful for having learned biogeometry, because then I was able to go in and install the right tools to transmute these power lines, and now these power lines are carrying the gold energy that is having a beneficial impact on the environment. Really, there are advanced levels of doing this kind of transmutation that I think this is really the only way that we're really going to save the planet is to transmute these energy fields that we're creating from this technology. That we really have to see that this is really a golden opportunity, because if we, as a humanity, get on board with this, of understanding that there are all these toxic vibrations that we're creating through our technology, and not only that, that different thoughts and emotions also have this same type of detrimental energy pattern to them, and that we can look at this technology and say, well, we can't really get rid of it. We're moving forward. We're evolving in this world. We can't get rid of this technology, but what we can do is transmute the vibrational patterns behind that, and that will open up all these spiritual levels, and it's really potential to bring in a new golden age, and I'm really excited about that.
Oh, it's great to know that you're going to be able to help us transmute these negative ELF towers, ELF, Gwen towers, all over the place. They've told us they're just for cell phone usage, but I have contacted a scientist, and he confirmed to me, this Stephen, or a Symbolic Sorcerer, that these are energies that are designed to interrupt our astral causal bodies. They're not for self. It's sickening, but you're going to help us transmute this stuff. Thank you so much. Will you please come back to our show again?
Definitely, and if people want to check me out, they can go to symbolicsorcery.blogspot.com and learn a little bit more about what I do.
Thank you so much, Symbolic Sorcerer, for joining us on Occult Empire, the maiden show on the Antimatter Zone Network. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Symbolic Sorcerer. We will see you next week on another episode number 002 of Occult Empire coming up. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody have a great night. Good night.